What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video on Lexers. Today we have got the second episode of my Championship weekly score predictions. The first episode was so much fun to make, and predictions wise I actually did not too badly. I actually got 3 correct scores out of the 12 games, which is a shock for me. I'd never really start my predictions well, but it was actually a really good weekend for me. I won't show the prediction league, but I'll reveal the top 4/5 as it stands, just to give you guys a bit of a shout out. So congratulations to Andy and Pinky Dagger. He is the one currently leading the way with 16 points. I'm actually second place at the moment with 12 points, but so does WA D3C1. He also has 12 points as well. And joint fourth, you've got Wallace and Gromit Fan, the runner-up from last year, and Thunderball. So well done to 4 of you for doing fantastically well with your predictions last week. This week is going to be an interesting sort of pressure to see, are the same people going to carry on with their predictions? Is any one of us going to slip up this week? You know, this is the really interesting part of the season. We're going to start getting used to knowing what to expect from teams week in, week out. We also had majority of the teams playing in Carabao Cup in the past couple of days as well, and most of them having really disappointing results as well, which I'll allude to with my predictions as well. If you guys enjoy this series, please smash the like button to continue it. It would be absolutely appreciative. Please hit that subscribe button if you've not done so as well, because that really does help as well as we're trying to push to 2,000 subscribers. We're getting ever closer each day as it goes, so please make sure you do that. It's free to do, and it really does help the growth of this channel. Please share the channel too. All these things really do help. But without any further ado, let's start predicting this weekend's games. We start off this weekend with Coventry going up against Middlesbrough. This is going to be the early game for the Saturday with a 12:30 kickoff. Now, Middlesbrough was one of the very few Championship teams with a positive result in the Carabao Cup, as they managed to get past Huddersfield Town with their Carabao Cup tie. I mean, they fell behind, but actually they had a terrific comeback and had glimmers of what we were expecting to see from Middlesbrough, especially within the opening game as well. And when I look back in hindsight with that defeat against Millwall, they did have a good amount of opportunities, but they weren't clinical, but Millwall were. And this is going to be one area that Middlesbrough definitely got to work on. I think getting a striker in to rival Chuba is definitely going to not be the worst case scenario. I definitely think that's what they need. They just need a little bit more ruthlessness going forward. Coventry lost out in the Carabao Cup. They actually lost out to, I believe it was AFC Wimbledon that they lost out, which they managed to lead a game once again and then concede 2 late goals. So that's the second game in a row where Coventry have given their lead away. And who knows, you know, they could have been in Wimbledon's position and would have faced Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge, which would have been an incredible game for Coventry. So a real kick in the teeth on their part there for the fact that they lost, let the Carabao Cup slip away from their fingers just like that. And this mentality of giving the lead away is something that they're definitely going to need to work on going into this game, because Middlesbrough will definitely want revenge after Coventry denied their chances of getting into the Premier League last year. So Coventry have had the slightly better record against Middlesbrough in recent history, but that's not going to mean that Coventry are going to necessarily win this comfortably. I think as a prediction, we're going to see 1 goal within it. It's going to be very close. But I have a feeling that Coventry actually played quite well against Leicester until they buckled under the pressure when Kieran Dewsbury Hall had a masterclass. And I think Middlesbrough are still finding their way with their attacking form within their first 11 at least. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Coventry, but I can easily see Middlesbrough also getting something as well. I think it's going to be very close. I'm going to go 2-1 Coventry. Never know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Birmingham versus Leeds United. So I think this is going to be a very interesting game to predict, actually. So obviously Birmingham and Leeds have actually started off their season picking up a draw within their first game. Birmingham, which was different from Leeds, actually took the lead within their game, but then sadly for them managed to throw it away, which is a shame on their part. Leeds had to work just that little bit harder, especially as they were 2-0 down against Cardiff as well. It was quite a performance on their part to see them get back into this. So Birmingham managed to get through the Carabao Cup. Again, one of the few Championship teams to go through. They managed to get past Cheltenham. Leeds had a bit of a scare against Shrewsbury, but they did manage to get through in the end. So they are two teams that managed to get through to the next round. And I think with this game, it's going to be very interesting to see the atmosphere in St Andrews, especially with the new ownership and the new optimism around with Birmingham. Leeds, I think, still are looking like that they are going to take a bit of time. There was some news about Unotto actually making himself unavailable for the Carabao Cup game. And if those tensions are going to spiral out of control and Leeds don't get a handle on it, then it could really make things difficult. And of course, having Cooper away at the back as well is going to really make things tricky for them. So I think it's going to be a tough game for Leeds. I think as a prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I can't really edge either one of these teams at this moment. And I'm aware it's going to be 2 1-1 draws in a row for Birmingham. But I think Birmingham will start quite well. They'll compete within games and then eventually they'll start picking up all 3 points. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Cardiff versus QPR. I mean, what am I going to expect with either one of these teams? Cardiff had a major scare in the Carabao Cup yesterday actually when they faced Colchester United, and they looked like that they salvaged something, but then oh my goodness, it was quite a crazy game. So it ended 2-2 and it went to a penalty shootout, and ultimately nerves were high since both teams, missed their first penalty. But Cardiff's experience and options did pull through in the end, and they managed to beat Colchester comfortably on penalties in the end by 3-0. With QPR, they actually have not played their Carabao Cup tie yet. They're playing it next week against Norwich. So we will have to look on that next week. But within this game here, QPR have got a lot of questions to answer. Are they going to play anywhere near as bad as they did last week against Watford? Are they going to show a response for Gareth Ainsworth? Cardiff, I felt, were very clinical against Leeds, and ultimately they buckled under Leeds' attack within the second half. And I think if Cardiff dictate this game and actually get a couple of really good clinical chances, then I think they could really take the game away from QPR, to be honest. As a prediction, I'm going to go for 3-1 Cardiff. I'm not really backing that QPR back line at this moment of time. So I think Cardiff actually might win this one quite comfortably. I'm going to go 3-1 Cardiff. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Huddersfield versus Leicester City. So Huddersfield have had 2 defeats in a row with their start to their season. So obviously their first game against Plymouth, which was very poor defensively, especially Balimumba's goal. I mean, how no one was able to stop him, I don't even know. Great quality for Mumba. I'm not taking any credit away from him, but it was way too easy for him to get that solo goal across. And it doesn't get any better as well, because in their Carabao Cup they lost to Middlesbrough, which was a real shame. Optimism flew in when they took the lead, and then ultimately just a lack of concentration, I find. And if they do not concentrate against Leicester City, I mean, they're going to have issues. Leicester disposed of Burton pretty comfortably in the Carabao Cup in the end by 2-0. They barely really got out of first gear, to be honest, and there was a lot of changes within that squad. So I do think Leicester have got an embarrassment of riches in a way within their options within the Championship. And I think as a prediction here, I'm thinking Leicester could win this one quite comfortably. I'm going to go for a 2-0 away victory to Leicester. Unless Huddersfield manage to score first, then I think things will be very interesting. But I'm going to go 2-0 Leicester. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game is Hull versus Sheffield Wednesday. So Hull were knocked out of the cup by Doncaster. This was one of the shocks because Hull were at home, Doncaster League 2. They managed to beat them by 2-1. Grant McCann actually gained revenge against his old club actually. And with Sheffield Wednesday had a bit of a scare. They got a last minute, I think a 98th minute equaliser against League 2 Stockport at home. And they managed to get through on penalties. So Sheffield Wednesday having the luckiest side of the Carabao Cup game in that time around. But both teams did not look entirely convincing, although both teams definitely showed a lot of change going into that competition. With this, I think it's going to be interesting. Hull, I thought, were very clinical against Norwich when they needed to be. But they ultimately really were defensively good for most of the game, but unfortunately conceded one too many chances. Sheffield Wednesday, I thought, showed a lot of promise actually within that second half. but a lack of concentration when it was needed at the back is what cost them, especially Southampton's second goal. So I do think both teams have got a good amount of strengths and weaknesses that can counteract each other. As a prediction, I can't really edge either one of them at the moment. I've got to be honest. I was actually quite impressed with Sheffield Wednesday to the point where I think they could actually get something against Hull away from home. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this game. I'm going to play it safe a little bit, but I'm going to go for a draw. Let me know what you think about in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Ipswich versus Stoke. Now, I'm going to this game, so I really hope that I see a fantastic game between both of these teams. Now, both of these teams had a winning start to their season. Ipswich beating Sunderland by 2-1 at the Stadium of Light. Not easy to do, but Ipswich actually was so comfortable at one stage. I was really surprised, actually, when they did concede a consolation for Sunderland when Sunderland went down to 10 men. So I do think their game management might need a little bit of work, Ipswich, if I had to be picky about their performance. But oh my word, going forward, they were very, very clinical. Something that I was not used to seeing when I did see them on the TV. Stoke disposed of Rotherham very comfortably by 4-1. Poor performance by Rotherham, but very good performance by Stoke. I think they were very, very clinical there. Their attacking play was fantastic as well. But the one major blow with Stoke is that today I just found out that Jacob Brown has transferred to Luton Town, which is a shame because Jacob Brown was actually one of the goal scorers for Stoke in their victory. So that's a real shame on their part. They've lost a really capable goal scorer within the Championship. They're going to have to rely on Vidigal, who managed to score a brace in that last game. I think he'll be their biggest threat going forward. I also was very impressed with the Wolves low knee double of whoever and Chiquino, whoever managed to score his first goal within his first game. So they'll be a threat. But Ipswich as well looked really, really confident and actually comfortable at the back. It was really surprising to see how things actually were still really, really great. Despite losing their first choice goalkeeper, Christian Walton, he'll be out for a good couple of months with a fascia injury. So within this game, I think it's going to be very interesting. I could definitely see Stoke hurting them in the wide areas. I think they're really, really strong there. And it's really down to what Team McKenna goes for here. And about the Carabao Cup, so Ipswich managed to beat Bristol Rovers very comfortably in the end, so they did really well. And Stoke actually managed to beat Championship rivals West Brom by 2-1, so they did really well, both of these teams in their Carabao Cup games. As a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Reason being, I think both these teams can score bags of goals, and my last two appearances to Portman Road, what does the score ended at? 2-2. So I'm going to go for 3 consecutive appearances in a row for it ending 2-2. I mean, the streak could very much end with it being a new league, but I do think that I need to see Ipswich win one day. Maybe not this game. I think Stoke's going to be a very tough test for Ipswich, but I definitely think they're capable of it. But so is Stoke. Stoke have really, really got some dangerous players. So I'm going to go for a draw. And it's going to be a 2-2-1. I want to be entertained. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Millwall versus Bristol City. So Millwall arguably had one of the more embarrassing scorelines within the Carabao Cup when they lost 4-0 to recently relegated Reading. It was a very, very changed team, so I'm definitely defending them on that. It was definitely a very embarrassing scoreline for Millwall, but what wasn't an embarrassing scoreline was Bristol City's result against Oxford in the Carabao Cup, where they beat them by 5-1. They were actually very, very ruthless within that game. Millwall, for the way that they performed against Middlesbrough, was fantastic. They were clinical. They were very direct. They actually were very dangerous on the counter-attack as well. So I do think Millwall will cause Bristol City a lot of problems. And I think Bristol City are still finding their way within their back line. I do think defensively against Will Keane's goal against Preston, I thought they were actually quite poor within that. So I do think Bristol City need a bit of work at the back. Millwall, I think, will be clinical. So therefore, I'm actually going to go for a Millwall win. I actually think Millwall will start this season quite well. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Millwall, but I can easily see it going the other way and Bristol City could potentially get something. So I think this game's really, really close. If I'm predicting a 2-1, it really could go either way because I think it's going to be really tight this year. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Preston going up against Sunderland. So Alex Neil facing his former managed team in Preston North End. So Preston and Sunderland actually were knocked out of the Carabao Cup quite embarrassing fashion, I believe both on penalties and both against League 2 teams. Preston were out against Salford and Sunderland were out against Crewe Alexandra. So Preston started off this season with a draw against Bristol City. They were behind for most of that game, but Will Keane, a bit of quality on his part within that forward line. He did really, really well there. He could be a really important player, Will Keane, this season, to be honest. And Sunderland, obviously, they lost out against Ipswich, as I mentioned, but I've got to say, fair play to them. They actually looked better when they had less people on the pitch, when they were down to 10 men. And the fact they kept going right to the end, it does show their brilliant mentality and going to the end. And I think with these long, elongated games, I think it could suit a couple of teams, but it wouldn't suit many teams that are going to try and run down the clock in a way. So I think that's just another factor I've got to consider within my predictions now. Preston's home form in their recent seasons have been a little bit hit and miss. They've not been the most consistent. Sunderland's away form was fantastic last year. So whether they're going to carry that forward into this season, this is going to be the almighty test for it to see how they perform. Again, I'm a little bit undecided with this. So if I'm undecided, that's going to lead me to a draw. I think I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this game. But I could very easily see one of them edging it by 1 goal. It is really, really close. You know, ultimately, a lot of time when we predict things, it's guesswork based on what we've seen with performances. And I think with it being so early in the season, it's still an unknown to see how much they're going to carry that forward. Their bounce back ability for both of these sides is going to be very interesting. So I'm going to go for a 1-1. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Rotherham versus Blackburn. So Rotherham started their season pretty poorly. I really got to be honest. Losing by 4-1 against Stoke. It's not really the type of result that you'd really want to have within the start of his season. I'll tell you that. And within the EFL Cup, they were a little bit lucky in a way. They managed to get past Morecambe in the end on a penalty shootout. So they had a bit of a scare. Blackburn, they managed to start their season well with a brilliant win over West Brom. And actually quite deserved as well. You know, they didn't start all that well. But on the counter-attack, my gosh, they were very clinical. And showing again their clinical ability to really kill games for many teams. And they played one of the games of the Carabao Cup, beating Walsall by 4-3. That was quite a spectacular scoreline. This game, I think, is going to be not quite like that at all. I think Rotherham will try and frustrate Blackburn. Blackburn may actually have more of the ball, but I don't think that suits the way that Blackburn play. I think Blackburn like to play when they're trying to press and win the ball back. Rotherham, I think, will struggle within this game to break down this Blackburn side. I can't lie, I don't see many goals in this one. I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw. I do think we will get a 0-0 draw at some point. We didn't get a 0-0 draw at all last week. Especially with the long stoppage times, I think we're going to have very little 0-0 draws. But I think this one might be the first one. I just don't really see the game really starting to life. So I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Southampton versus Norwich. I'm really excited for this one. And it's going to be a very interesting challenge to see how these two are going to compete and compare within their points of the season. So Southampton have gone through definitely a bit of change. So James Ward-Prowse sounds like he's accepted to go to West Ham. So I don't expect him to be present within this game. Lavia is looking very touch and go. Liverpool and Chelsea kind of going back and forth with their bids for him. So I think right now the squad is definitely not looking finalised yet for what it's going to be within the Championship, which could cause disruption. And they did lose their Carabao Cup game as well. It was pretty poor as well. I think it was a 3-1 defeat against Gillingham, which was not a great result for Southampton whatsoever. Norwich did not play their Carabao Cup. They're playing it next week against QPR, as I mentioned previously. And they started the season off with a win. A 2-1 victory against Hull City. They prevented a club record of consecutive home games without scoring a goal. So maybe that monkey off the shoulders now that they can score goals at home, maybe that could push them forward, although with controversial circumstances how they managed to score their winner. I'm not forgetting about the ball being out of play in the lead up to Ida's goal. But I think regardless, both these teams with a winning start, we should see a really good game here. I think Southampton will be the slightly stronger team within their home games, I think, in my personal opinion. Norwich, for me, whilst they did attack quite well, defensively they still look very shambolic. I mean, they had an error leading to goal for when they fell behind against Hull City. If they do have a mistake in them, that back line, I think Southampton will pounce. So as a prediction, I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory, but I think it could easily be a little bit closer. I think Southampton are going to definitely show, attacking wise, why they're going to be such a great team this year. So I'm going to go 3-1 Southampton. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Watford versus Plymouth. So is it going to be a repeat for Watford for how well they managed to play in their last game against QPR? Well, they definitely do not want to repeat their Carabao Cup performance as well, because they were one of the many teams actually that did manage to lose their game. I believe it was a penalty shootout against Stevenage. I mean, that is poor on their parts really to lose it in the way that they did. I mean, the Steve Evans masterclass, but yeah, not good at all for Watford in that front there. Then you've got Plymouth Argyle, which they started really well within this season. I mean, it was definitely crucial for them to establish their home form, because I think their home form is going to be the biggest factor that may keep them in this league for another year. They managed to beat Leyton Orient at home park, so once again showing that dominance at home as well, which is great for them to show. This game, however, I do think with Watford, I think are the only team actually to have 2 home games in a row within their first 2 games. I think this could be not necessarily the levels of QPR where they smash them by 4-0 going into half time, but I think Watford might actually have a bit of fun here. I have a feeling Plymouth away from home aren't going to be anywhere near as strong as their home form. So I might be very wrong on this, but I think the way that Watford really played with so much confidence and enthusiasm and flair, I think they can carry that forward into their championship season with a strong team. I'm going to go for a 3-0 victory to Watford, but I could easily be wrong on this one. It's going to be very interesting to see how Plymouth cope within those highly attacking teams away from home. So I'm predicting that Plymouth aren't going to cope well, but I could easily be wrong on that. So I'm going to go 3-0. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Final game to predict is West Brom Swansea. So West Brom, as I did mention, they were knocked out of the Carabao Cup in a pretty disappointing manner there. And with Swansea, they managed to play against Northampton, and they won pretty comfortably in the end. So definitely opposite fortunes within the Carabao Cup. West Brom lost their first game against Blackburn. I'm very disappointed because they actually started really well, but they were not clinical. And if you're not clinical, you're going to be punished, aren't you? And I do think one of the goals was very poor with Alex Palmer. I think one of the goals he was beaten as near post, which he should have done better with. So I do have doubts of their goalkeeper, I can't lie. Good quality from Phillips to get the consolation goal against Blackburn, but the fact that he really didn't spark anything to get that equaliser, it was very disappointing because that goal came quite early in the second half when Blackburn could have really been cruising. So honestly, I still have a little bit of concern with West Brom. You know, I don't have any concerns with their performances, but it's their game management. Can they take their chances? If they don't take their chances, are they going to prevent the opposition getting something? So Swansea already have managed to win 1 point from a losing position against Birmingham. So Swansea do have the ability to potentially fight back if they are put in difficult circumstances there. And after beating Northampton pretty comfortably, maybe that'll give some of the players a little bit of confidence going into the season, because I did see them looking a little bit tentative in their last game against Birmingham there. So hoping it opens up for both these teams. As a prediction, God, it could really swing either way. I still think Swansea are going to still find it a little bit difficult to get going. I think this is a really good chance for West Brom to really start their season. So as a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to West Brom. I think it's going to be very, very close. But I think at the Hawthorns, I think West Brom might get 3 points. I'm going to go 2-1 West Brom. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. So guys, that is my predictions done for this weekend's games. They're all taking place on Saturday. I'm going to actually go to one of the games, Ipswich versus Stoke, of course, as well, which I'm really excited to be seeing. Honestly, nearly a fully packed stadium. It was really difficult to get a ticket, actually, so I'm really pleased I got one there. So I hope you guys have an enjoyable weekend with your team as well. Make sure you predict what you think will happen in the comments down below so you guys can score some points on the Let's Leicester Football Prediction League. But that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please smash the like button and hit the subscribe button too. Both these things are free to do and they both really help the growth of this channel. And please also share the channel too as more people will come across my content. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for starting this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.